Me? Yes. Thank you very much. Hello, welcome. We are very happy to be here. Hello, my panelists. Great to have you here today. You've been introduced already. We have 25 minutes, so we'll just dive right into it. Following the previous discussion we've had about the geopolitical tensions, about the necessity to keep resources in the loop, I quickly like to reiterate that with you, Christina, right? We're going to explore why Industry 4.0 is creating real-world circular value, or how it can do so. But before we start, I'd like to just quickly point out again, in addition to this ecological aspect that was really very well highlighted by when you from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation in the last talk. Beyond this ecological imperative, what is the core economic argument for you why we need a circular economy for our industries in Europe?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. I think it is highly important also to look on the material cost opportunities we have. So when we're looking on several companies we are working with, we see huge opportunities in decrease the cost on the material side when we reuse the parts, and so we have reduction rates 20%, even more than 20%. And on top of that, it is a huge opportunity to decrease the dependency we have on the global supply chain, because we see there are several materials, raw materials, where we have already huge difficulties to get the materials, like copper, for example. So there we see the opportunities, and also companies already use and make use of these opportunities to really have less dependent supply chain on one hand side, but also reduce costs on the material side.
Yeah, thank you so much. So that sort of like we see this economic case. Nico, I'd like to ask you now, CEO of Reuter, where you can judge about this even more. We've heard how BMW has this secondary first approach. Do you see this really translating into an argument, or this argument for resilience and resource savings? Is this like a tangible reality for you today, now as CEO of Reuter, or is this like still requiring heavy investments where you will see the return only in a few years?
Yeah, so on one side, of course, it is a reality, and we have to face this situation. So there is no question about it. But there is still a big gap between, theory and reality. Yeah, because if you really want to, for example, set up an Industry 4.0 plant, it's not just an easy exercise to do this. Yeah, so we have probably one of the most modern plants in Germany, if not in Europe, and it's an Industry 4.0 based plant. And I can tell you, so there was, of course, the layout and the design, and it took us about 3 years of heavy investment and heavy learning cycles to at least get some of the promises out of it. Yeah, so it's not so easy to just quickly set up an Industry 4.0 plant. So, but this is, in the end, the basis for everything, because in the end, data-driven production or smart systems is key to come up with something like circularity or things like that.
Absolutely, and we'll dive right into that. But before we do that, Felix, this economic argument for circularity is the core of your business model. Can you just quickly outline this? When a company decides to become more circular, so where do they find the most immediate tangible economic wins? This is your daily business, right, to identify them?
Yeah, this is daily business. So we as a software company, we kind of like bring transparency into the resource and waste management. So by that we discover and digitize and analyze the numbers of resources and waste in the company and operations, and with that we give transparency to the companies to realize what kind of like waste actually appears where and when, and also what kind of volume and value this waste has. So we actually transform the waste into a resource, which then can be sold at the secondary raw material market, and enabling like actually the circular economy. But data is the most important in that to realize this.
Yeah, absolutely. But does it take a lot of convincing for companies to see that value?
It depends. So it depends because it depends what kind of like waste and materials you actually have. So if it's highly valuable, of course, it's easier to explain that the return on investment, if you sort correctly, and you actually can sell the raw materials, it's an easy sell. If it's like really mixed waste, mixed materials, not so much valuable, then of course you need to explain it a bit more detail. But it's a win-win-win. So you can actually get the return on investment by sorting better and have clear fractions of your waste, but also your resources. But then also it's an ecological win as well.
Okay, absolutely. So let's start to become more specific, sort of outlining why we need to do this. There's economics behind this. But then, of course, we get to the physical operations. Christina, you have identified this bottleneck of disassembly. We've talked about it before. So why is it so difficult to intelligently take products apart rather than assembling them? We have a fair guess, but please go ahead and go into more detail.
Yeah, it is really extremely difficult because there are so many challenges behind and so many uncertainties. So imagine you get back some products which are coming just, from some clients, for example. You have no idea how they were used. You have no idea under which conditions they were used. So there's so many uncertainties. So you get the product on the table, and then you need to really analyze step by step, what is broken, what you can reuse, what you can repair, what you can remanufacture. So the reassembly is really the first step before you can decide what is the further life maybe of this component. So imagine when you have a normal production, then you have a purchase where you have specific specifications from your suppliers with some quality measures and so on for the parts. But when you get back the products from your clients, then you don't have these specifications. I mean, you just take what you get, and there are so many different conditions you need to consider. That makes it really, really difficult. And then step by step during the assembly, you need to really always decide, what is next. Can you really reuse it? Can we remanufacture it? So the solution space is so huge that it makes really difficult compared to, let's say, the normal production in the first way.
What are the sort of key aspects, technologies that you need to improve disassembly?
I mean, it would help if you just would have more information about the product life cycle. So what we see today is that many companies, they sell their products and then the products are gone. So they don't really know what happens with the products after they sold it. So this would be the first step, to have more information, more data about the usage of the products. And secondly, also, I mean, if you talk about digital AI and other means, I think this is already a huge support in order to really analyze what is the product about, what is the condition of the product, what we can do with that, and also really to learn from the experience how to reuse or remanufacture these parts.
Yeah, perfect. So you mentioned data. Digital twins. Nico, looking at you, when we talked before, you outlined the great added value that you already encounter when building up digital twins, using AI for customers to allow further specify their products. Can you just outline in your Industry 4.0 fabric how digital twins are a necessity, and then also going that next step, how digital twins could help to actually improve within your factory, within your company, what Christina has just been describing?
Yeah, happy to do so. So first of all, so what Christina just said is very much important for everything in brownfield. So because we actually do not know exactly what has been built, what has been put into the products, and we do not know exactly all the different materials. If we look into greenfield, so new products which will be launched, a digital twin in our perspective is key to everything. So but that again needs a combination of hardware and software. So for those who do not know what we actually do, so on one side, we are a hardware manufacturer. So we are manufacturing enclosures, we are manufacturing power distribution units, we are manufacturing cooling systems, we are manufacturing racks for large data systems, and the likes. On the other side, we have a huge software company, which is actually under the 10 largest software companies in Germany right now, which is ePlan. And ePlan is an eCAD software. And this eCAD software builds on a data portal. And in this data portal, we have more than 4 million components, which actually in the end goes into the enclosure. So now with every component, which also comes with the individual semantics, and all the different information about the component, it can be used to build a digital twin of an enclosure. Yeah? This can be done also by using AI. So I can just send in a certain request or prompt, we would say, and then the AI is building you the ideal enclosure with all the different components inside. So this, in the end, gives you a complete setup, which you then can hand over to the customer, and the customer can keep it and continuously keep it up to date. If one component breaks, he can order a new component, and it is immediately being updated in the digital twin. So if at a certain point in time, when it comes to the end of the life cycle, you easily can decompose. Yeah, but this is the key, in my perspective, to really become circular in the end.
Absolutely. It's the twin transition at its best, it's describing exactly that example. And Felix, I think here you can kind of come easily in, because getting these data, having the digital twins, is what really facilitates sort of a proper, disassembly, but then also a sorting of the materials, and then easier and better value of what you can generate in the end.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, like the data is the key. So when we kind of get the materials, the products end of life into our platform, we need to know the volumes, the quality, what happened, how it was used, what kind of maybe even contamination took place, to be able to then really assess, okay, where can this material go? Can it be in an open loop? Can it be in a closed loop back to the production facility? And with that, we kind of start, this is the starting point. Of course, digital twins are still rare, I would say. There's not so many real-life examples at the moment out there. So we are also experiencing and trying to get the data from real-life examples, which is quite exciting, to then kind of use it to kind of manipulate it into working closed loops.
Yeah. Nico, how do you look at it now? While you have the digital twins, is this now a low-hanging fruit to go the next step and implement more circular approaches, getting your materials back, or not quite yet?
I think it's a starting point. Yeah. So when we look into industrial enclosures, the lifetime of such an industrial enclosure usually is, I don't know, between 15 and 20 years. Yeah. So we are launching now in industrial enclosures as a digital twin, but it's still 20 years ahead until we come into this kind of circularity discussion then. But it's a start and it's a prep. Yeah. When we look into data center infrastructure, for example, we are doing the same. But the data center infrastructure every 5 years will be renewed. So here we have a different and a more narrow life cycle. So if we do it now, we have the opportunity to, recover some of the materials maybe in 3, 4, 5 years from now. So it becomes more and more reality. But in my perspective, we have to start somewhere. We cannot say, okay, because it's now 20 years in the future, it doesn't make sense to do anything. If we really believe into this, we have to start it now. And I invite everybody to come to the Hannover Fair and to look at our booth. We show the digital twin and all the data and everything and how it works.
Mm-hmm. Adding another layer onto this, talking about AI, of course, we have to do this, being here at DLD. Another further enabler for circularity. Nico, when we talked before, you said that when you put together the specifications for a new enclosure, you can make up to 20% material savings, right? Christina, using AI for creating disassembly plans is something that you've mentioned, and of course optimizing logistics and interpreting the big data that you get. AI can be a key enabler. This question really goes to all of you. Where do you see the most significant breakthrough that AI can deliver in your specific area within the coming years? Christina, maybe we start with you.
I think a huge impact could be on the inspection side, in the first step to see what is coming in, but also to learn from the past how we deassembled, remanufactured the parts in the past. So we have sustainability and circularity lab at our institute, where we try to elaborate on the different technologies, especially with sensor data, with AI algorithms in the back, how to use them in the disassembly process. And we have actually already very good examples. But on the other side, what we see in reality is that many companies are still on the very, very beginning. So we have still very manual, very puristic processes, if there are any. So there we see a huge gap between what is in theory possible, but what we see in reality is still far away from that.
Yeah, Felix, I mentioned you that fax machines are still
it's still a thing,
still existing and being used frequently,
especially in the waste industry. Yeah, so as we discussed as well before, it's for us, it's definitely AI will play an amazing role in the reverse logistics part and also in the connectivity between all the stakeholders. We see it already now that you can imagine, like in the waste industry, the software ERP systems are all quite not outdated, but like very unique in that sense. And to connecting all the different parts and actually receiving the data which is necessary for the transparency to actually create a recycling system, closed loop system, open loop systems. The AI tools is a toolkit to actually connect these partners and stakeholders.
Yeah, and Nico, maybe you just described the example of how you are using AI, because I really liked it when you talked.
Yeah, we of course, we are also still at the beginning, and as everybody basically, but we strongly believe in industrial AI and in the impact of industrial AI. And when it comes to circularity and topics like this, in our perspective, everything starts with the right design. So if you start with the wrong design, you will end up with you of course can decompose at the end, but you will not benefit anything. So it starts with the right design, and AI can help you as a co-pilot to come up with this. And especially in times like today, when everybody is looking at the bottom line. Because we are in a structural crisis in Germany and in Europe, and we are interacting with companies and discussing this. And everybody is telling us, okay, can you help us with productivity increase? Can you help us with cost savings? So wherever you are able to use AI to come up with an impact-based business case, which includes circularity, then it makes sense. If it is just circularity because of being nice, it's not the right time at the moment.
Yeah, Absolutely. It's these use cases that you need to show, and here AI, this is what you mentioned as well, right? We have the use cases here, we have the industries here where AI can really play that critical role. Maybe not developing them anymore, but showing how the use cases can work, right? Talking about how does it, or is it the time to talk about circularity? We just had this discussion outside there. Is it only the time where recycling brings that economic argument and bringing back the materials? Does only this circular strategy promise economic returns, or servitization, Christina? It's one of the sort of, like, let's say, it's the gold standard in circular economy, performance business models. How do they see the opportunity of this servitization, performance-based business models really starting to play a role even today?
Yeah, I mean, I still see many companies still focusing on a one-off sale business model. So they sell a product and then it's gone and goodbye forever. So they don't know how the products are used, which is also even, let's say, an opportunity for the design phase, even if you not do any kind of circularity, but in order to improve your products, it should be necessary, or it is necessary to really know how the products are used. And I see a huge opportunity to go more and more in a way that we talk about performance-oriented business models, more service-oriented business models, because, I mean, we are lacking today already revenues in order to cover our costs. So we need to think about new revenue streams. And service-oriented business models, of course, are opportunities in order to have recurrent revenue streams. So therefore, this is an opportunity we cannot ignore. And now the other side, what I would also like to highlight is, it's not just, that we are good for the planet. I mean, it's also that we are focusing on the value creation for our customers. I mean, yes, we try to reuse and repair and so on our products, but it's also about to maybe increase the value for our customers so that we bring additional functionalities, additional features into our products when they're coming back. So it's not just about, to prolong the life cycle, but even to add more value to it and more value for the customer. So I think this is also something which we really need to consider. So therefore, I think there are many reasons really to start with it.
Nico, do the arguments from Christina convince you?
Yeah, as leading a global company and also, delivering products into different parts of the world, we have to compete on a global basis. Yeah, and again, I can only, re-emphasize. Yeah, if there is a business model, and if it helps us to be cost competitive, then it works fine, at least in these days. If this is not the case, it will be difficult. Yeah, and there are other countries out there, they have a completely different picture on this topic. Yeah, and they do not kind of push companies into that space. They just say, okay, lead the world. Yeah. So, and this is something we have to face. So from that perspective, it's a very important topic. It's also a possibility to differentiate. It's a possibility to come up with interesting business models, especially when it goes into materials which are rare. So we use lots of copper, for example. So regaining copper is an important topic. Yeah. But in the end, there has to be a business model standing behind which is attractive and able to compete on a global scale.
Absolutely. And here going back to you, Felix, again, talking about AI, what role does it play for you to differentiate as well? Sort of how do you use this technology in your specific case?
For us as a company, you mean? I mean, it's a clear differentiator in a very competitive environment. I mean, AI will change the entire software development industry, and also, I think, the startup and scale-up world, because AI will be able to replace probably the majority of almost all key employees in such a endeavor. So there's a lot of you need to be on the AI track to survive.
Yeah, yeah, and all the possibility it brings that you mentioned before, you can do a track and tracing on the batch level and the transparency it brings, and for connecting the stakeholders in this sort of environment where fax machines are still being used.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the industry, AI plays a vital role to connect all these players together.
Yeah, as we are sort of there's a slow movement in the back trying to remind us that we have about 30 seconds left. I try to close this with this sort of looking forward. Having discussed that AI will be a game changer, when we are looking into the future, in a future where industrial systems are fully automated, we have the digital twins, they are regenerative, what is the biggest opportunity this creates for our next generation of engineers, of entrepreneurs, of our leaders? So if you combine these perspectives, what is it that makes you positive, and where would you argue are the opportunities for our next generation to take? Nico, I want to start with you.
Yeah, it's not a whether we shall do it. It's just a question how we do it. It's a must, basically. Yeah, because there's only one world. Yeah. So what are we debating? Yeah. So we have to, of course, convince people. But in the end, as a leader of a company, we have to also, balance it a little bit out so that we are on one side are able to survive in a very tough world at the moment, but on the other side, being on the right track to a sustainable world.
Felix.
I can just second that. Mm-hmm. So agree. There's a necessity to do it. It's not a question if we do it. So we need to do it. Yeah.
Christina, you work with young people every day. So
well, they are so much intrinsic motivated. I do not need to do anything there. But maybe also for our industry partners, I think we really need to focus on the value creation and to focus on what is the value for our customers, for our society, and there's so much to do. So therefore, my shout out is really to transfer from a volume to a more value-oriented perspective.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you to my great panel who really helped to underline the point that it's a circular economy. It's circular because we talk about resources, and it's economy because we talk about value creation, and it's exactly that what we want to achieve with the help of digital technologies. You were fantastic in outlining the opportunities. Thank you so much.